I've been doing food delivery for almost 3 years now. Not because I love it, not because I couldn't find something better. I do it because it gives me control. I pick my hours, I pick my zones, I plug in my earbuds, and I drive. It's simple. It's quiet. And up until that one night, I thought I had seen pretty much everything this job could throw at me. Drunk customers. Wrong addresses. Apartments with no elevator and 6 flights of stairs. Orders that sit at the restaurant for 40 minutes while the food goes cold, and somehow that's your fault. I've had dogs chase me, kids throw things at my car, and one time, I kid you not, a guy answered the door in a full Halloween costume in February. I thought I was unshakable. I really did. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened on a Tuesday night in late October. Want to be real clear about something before I get into this. I'm not the kind of person who jumps to weird conclusions. I don't believe in ghosts. I'm not religious. I grew up in a small town where nothing interesting ever happened, and I moved to the city specifically because I wanted noise, movement, people. I am a practical, boring person, and what I'm about to tell you is something I still can't explain. Not fully. Not in any way that makes me feel better. So if you're here expecting a clean ending, a logical explanation that wraps everything up neatly, I'm sorry. I don't have one. What I have is what happened, and I'm going to tell you every part of it because I've been carrying this around for too long, and I need someone to hear it. Go ahead and subscribe if you're new here, because the stories on this channel don't go where you expect them to. And if you already know that, then let's get into it. It started like any other Tuesday night. I logged into the app around 7:30 p.m., checked my thermal bag, made sure I had enough gas, and headed out toward the busier part of the city. October is actually one of the better months for delivery. People are staying in more, the weather keeps them from going out, and Halloween means people order comfort food and junk they'd normally feel guilty about. Orders were coming in steady. By 9 p.m., I had done 4 deliveries. Nothing weird. A pizza run to a college dorm, some Thai food to an office building where a few people were apparently working late, a burger order to a guy who met me at the door, holding a baby and looking like he hadn't slept in 3 months. Normal stuff. The 5th order came in at 9:42 p.m. I remember the exact time because I had just parked to take a short break, and when the notification hit, I almost ignored it. But the payout was decent, and the pickup was only 2 minutes away from where I was sitting. So I accepted it. The restaurant was a place called Manolo's. It was a small spot that did grilled sandwiches and soup. Nothing fancy, just reliable comfort food. I had picked up from them before. I went in, gave my name, grabbed the bag. The woman at the counter handed it to me without making eye contact, which was normal for that place. They were always slammed. The order details showed a customer name, M. Lorne. 1 item, their loaded soup bowl, large. And the delivery address was in a gated community called Hartwell Estates. I had heard of it. I had never delivered there before, but I knew the general area. It was about 12 minutes away, a newer development on the edge of the city, where the roads got quieter and the houses got bigger. I plugged the address into my GPS, set the bag on the passenger seat, and pulled out. The drive was fine at first. I followed the route through the city, past the usual lights and traffic, and then gradually the road started narrowing. Street lamps became less frequent. The houses got further apart from each other, and the trees that lined the road got thicker. Not dramatically. It wasn't like a horror movie where fog rolls in and the music swells. It was just quieter. the way places get when you leave the populated areas behind. At around the 10-minute mark, my GPS directed me to turn right onto a private road. I slowed down because the entrance to Hartwell Estates had a guard gate, a little booth with a striped arm barrier across the lane. The booth was lit from inside, but as I pulled up to it, I could see through the glass that no one was sitting in there. The chair was empty. The monitor on the desk inside was on, showing a security camera feed, but the guard himself was gone. I rolled down my window and waited for about 30 seconds. Nobody came. Usually with gated communities, there's either an intercom, a call box, or a guard. This one had a call box mounted on a post to my left. I leaned out and pressed the call button. A recorded message played. Something like, "Thank you for calling Hartwell Estates. Please state your name and unit number." I said I was making a delivery for Unit 44. There was a pause, and then the barrier lifted. I drove through. Hartwell Estates was laid out like a lot of newer gated developments, a main road that looped around the inside with smaller side roads branching off it. The houses were large and spaced out, most of them dark at this hour. A few had their porch lights on, and one had what looked like a Halloween display in the yard, fake tombstones and orange string lights. It looked very deliberately normal. My GPS was guiding me toward the far end of the development. I followed the main loop, took a right onto a side road called Harrow Lane, and continued for about 300 feet. Then my GPS told me I had arrived at my destination. I stopped the car. I was at the end of Harrow Lane, and at the end of Harrow Lane there was no house. There was no driveway. There was no door. There was a wall, a solid concrete wall, about 12 feet high, the same kind that surrounded the perimeter of the entire development. It ran from left to right, unbroken, no gate, no opening, no signage, just concrete. I was looking straight at it from about 20 feet away, and my GPS was calmly telling me I had arrived at my destination. The blue dot was sitting right there, right at the base of that wall. I double-checked the address. Unit 44, 44 Harrow Lane, Hartwell Estates. That was what was on the order. That was where I was, and there was nothing here. I sat there for a moment, just kind of staring at the wall. My headlights threw two flat beams of light against the concrete surface. No texture, no markings, just a wall. My first thought was that there was a mistake. A data entry error, a wrong address, something boring and fixable. I opened the delivery app to contact the customer. There was a message button and a call button. I hit the call button. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. And then, and this is where things started to feel wrong. On the 4th ring, something happened that I had never seen before on this app. In the delivery interface, there's a small icon that shows the customer's live location when they've enabled it. It's mostly used so you can find them in a parking lot or in front of a building if the address is confusing. I had used it dozens of times. As the phone rang, I watched that little location appear on my screen, and it was right behind my car, not at a nearby building, not down the road. It was right there, within maybe 20-30 feet of my rear bumper, sitting right in the middle of Harrow Lane. My car was pointed toward the wall. The customer's dot was behind me. I turned around in my seat. Harrow Lane behind me was completely empty. Dark road, trees on either side, no movement. No one there. The call went to voicemail. A generic automated message. I didn't leave one. I sat very still for a moment and tried to be logical about it. GPS signals drift. Customer locations can glitch. There could be a phone in a nearby house that was just displaying a slightly off coordinate. These were all things I told myself in the next 60 seconds while I sat in that car, not moving, with the engine running and both hands on the steering wheel. Then I looked at the app again. The dot had moved. It was now on the left side of my car. Not behind me, beside me. Like it had walked up alongside the driver's side door. I did not look out the driver's side window. I need you to understand that. I made a very deliberate choice in that moment to not look, because looking felt like the wrong thing to do, and I don't fully know why I felt that, but I did. I kept my eyes forward on the wall. My phone was still open on the app. The dot was not moving now. It was just sitting there, beside me, approximately where someone would be standing if they were standing right outside my car door. I turned on the interior lights. Nothing happened. Nobody knocked. Nobody moved. I checked the side mirror. Nothing. Just the dark road behind me. I looked at the app again. The dot had moved to the front of my car. It was now sitting between my front bumper and the wall, between me and the concrete. Something was standing in front of my car. I hit the high beams. The wall lit up white. Nothing between me and it, but the dot was there. The app was showing me something standing right there in the headlight beams, not 8 feet from my car, and I could not see it. My hands were shaking. I can admit that now. I was sitting in a residential development at 9-something p.m. with a container of soup going cold in a bag on my passenger seat, and my hands were shaking because something felt deeply, viscerally wrong about what was happening, and my body had figured that out before my brain caught up. I tried the customer one more time. Voicemail again. I tried to call my dispatch line, the general help number for the app when there's a delivery issue. It rang 8 times. No answer. I was alone, and I knew it. I want to stop here and explain something about how the night felt. Not just the temperature, though the temperature was part of it. October nights in this city can get cold. But when I pulled up to that wall, I felt a drop that didn't match the weather. Not a dramatic freeze. Not something out of a movie. Just a creeping cold that felt like it was coming from outside the car rather than inside, even with the windows rolled up. Like the air pressure had shifted. The other thing was the sound, or rather the lack of it. Hartwell Estates was quiet. It's a private development, residential, so of course it's quiet. But there's a baseline level of sound that exists everywhere. Wind through trees, a distant car, a dog somewhere, the hum of a streetlight. When I was sitting at that wall, there was nothing. Complete silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel natural, because it isn't. It felt like the world had muted itself, and the soup. I know this sounds strange, but the bag on my passenger seat, the food bag with the soup in it, had started to smell different. Or rather, it had stopped smelling. When I picked it up from Manolo's, I could smell it through the sealed bag. Soup has a strong smell. Broth, spices. But sitting there at the end of Harrow Lane, there was nothing. No smell at all. Like something had neutralized it, or like the air itself wasn't carrying anything anymore. I know how that sounds. I know. But I'm telling you what I noticed. And that's what I noticed, after maybe 3 minutes of sitting there, which felt like much longer. I made a decision. I was going to mark the order as undeliverable, leave the food at the closest accessible point, and get out of Hartwell Estates. That was the rational, professional thing to do. I had tried to contact the customer twice. The address was invalid. I had a protocol to follow. I opened the app to update the order status. The customer's location was back behind my car. I looked in the rearview mirror. Empty road. I opened the status menu to mark it undeliverable. And here's something I had never seen before. The option wasn't there. The menu had 3 choices: delivered, customer not present, and retry delivery. The undeliverable option, that's always there for address issues, gone. Like it had been removed from this specific order. I tried to navigate out of the order entirely, to go back to my main queue. The app froze. Screen locked on the order details for M. Lorne. The blinking dot still showing behind my car. I took a screenshot, then I manually closed the app by force quitting it. When I reopened it, the order was gone from my queue entirely. No record of it in my history. Nothing. I would check later when I got home, and I would find that the payout for that delivery was never added to my balance. It was as if the order had never existed, as if I had driven to the end of a dead-end road in a gated community at 10 p.m. for no reason at all. I put the car in reverse. I wasn't going to turn around. Not there. I backed down Harrow Lane slowly, watching both mirrors until I reached the main loop road. Then I turned the car around and drove toward the exit. I kept my speed steady, not fast enough to seem panicked, which I know is a strange thing to even think about, but it mattered to me in that moment. I didn't want to seem panicked. The exit gate opened automatically as I approached it. The guard booth was still empty. I drove through, and the barrier closed behind me. I pulled over about 200 feet down the road, outside the walls of the development, under a streetlight, and I sat there for a few minutes trying to calm down. My heart was going fast. That cold feeling had started to fade. The normal sounds of the world, a car passing on the main road ahead, wind in the trees, a distant siren, were back. I looked at my phone. The app had no record of the delivery, no trace. I checked my call history. The 2 calls I had made to the customer's number were listed. Same number both times. I stared at it. I don't know why I did the next thing. I was already outside the gate. I should have just driven home, but something made me open my Maps app and manually search the address 44 Harrow Lane. Hartwell Estates. The Maps app found it. It showed a pin right at the end of Harrow Lane, right where I had been, and the listing information that popped up, the little card with the address details, showed something that made my stomach drop. The property listing said the unit had been vacant since 2019, no current resident, and below the address in small text, it said, last associated resident, Lorne. I sat under that streetlight for a long time. I don't know exactly how long. I went through every logical explanation I could think of. Someone had made an account with a dead person's name and old address. A prank, a glitch in multiple systems simultaneously. The live location feature had malfunctioned in a very specific and convincing way. The address simply hadn't been updated in the app's database. These are the things, I told myself, but here's what I couldn't explain. The location dot. I keep coming back to the location dot. GPS drifts, but it doesn't drift in a deliberate arc from behind your car to beside it, to in front of it, and then back to behind it. That kind of movement is not a glitch. Glitches don't move. Glitches don't circle. And the silence at the end of that road, and the cold that didn't belong to the weather, and the fact that a sealed bag of hot soup stopped smelling like anything. I went home. I didn't take any more orders that night. I made myself something to eat. I turned on the television. I left all the lights on in my apartment, and I didn't sleep well. The next morning, I decided to do something I hadn't done the night before. I went back. I know what you're thinking. Why would you go back? And the honest answer is, because I needed to see it in daylight. I needed to prove to myself that it was a wall, just a wall, and that the end of Harrow Lane was boring and ordinary, and there was nothing there. I drove to Hartwell Estates at 9:30 in the morning. The guard booth was staffed this time, a man in his 50s, heavy-set, looking bored. He asked me who I was there to see. I told him I had made a delivery there last night, and I just had a quick question about the address. He looked skeptical, but he let me in. Hartwell Estates in daylight was different, mundane. Kids' bikes on driveways, a woman walking a dog, the distant sound of a lawn mower. Normal. I felt almost embarrassed driving down Harrow Lane in the daylight, like I was chasing a nightmare that hadn't survived the morning. I pulled up to the end of Harrow Lane. The wall was there. Of course it was. But here's what I noticed that I hadn't been able to see clearly at night. At the base of the wall, right in the center, at ground level, there was a dark stain in the concrete. Horizontal, about 2 feet wide. I got out of the car and walked up to it. It was old. Whatever it was, it had been there for years. The concrete around it had weathered and faded while the stain stayed dark. I crouched down and looked at it. Closer, it wasn't a water stain. I don't know what it was, but the shape of it, the edges, it looked like something had been pressed against the wall there. For a long time I stood up. I looked at the wall. I looked at the stain. I got back in my car and I drove away. I filed a report with the delivery platform, explaining that I had been sent to an invalid address. They responded 48 hours later with a form email, apologizing for the inconvenience and telling me the order had been reviewed. When I pushed for more information, what account had placed the order, how the address had been in the system, they stopped responding. I checked the maps listing one more time, 2 days later. The pin for 44 Harrow Lane still showed Ann Lorne as the last associated resident. But now the listing was flagged, a little red marker that said, "Address may be inaccurate." Someone had flagged it. I don't know if it was me from opening the listing or if someone else had been there. I don't know. What I do know is that Ann Lorne was real at some point. A real person who had lived at the end of that road before the wall was there, or maybe while the wall was there. I don't know the development's history. A real person whose name ended up on an order that shouldn't have existed, delivered to a place that shouldn't be a delivery address. On a night when something circled my car in the dark, I have not delivered to Hartwell Estates since. I have never gotten another order from that area of the app. Maybe that means nothing. Maybe the delivery radius just doesn't pull from there for me anymore. But every now and then, late at night, when I'm parked somewhere quiet waiting for the next order to come in, I open the app and I look at the delivery map, and I look at my own location, the little marker showing where I am, and I think about what it would feel like to be the other dot, the one circling in the dark, the one no one can see. I don't know what Ann Lorne wanted that night. Maybe it was the food. Maybe something else. Maybe there was no wanting at all, just some kind of signal. Some leftover frequency that found its way into a Tuesday night delivery app, because that's just how the universe works sometimes, glitching across the line between whatever is here and whatever's not. But I'll tell you what I think about more than anything. More than the dot, more than the wall, more than the stain on the concrete. I think about the soup, because whoever placed that order, whatever placed that order, they ordered a specific thing. A loaded soup bowl, large, from Manalo's. They ordered it at 9:42 p.m. They paid for it through the app, which means a payment method was attached to that account. They set up a live location. They did everything a real living person does when they're hungry and they want someone to bring them food. And I drove there. I showed up the way any driver would. I just wonder if they expected me to get out of the car. If this story got under your skin, if you're sitting there right now with that little prickle at the back of your neck, wondering whether you would have gotten out of the car, drop a comment below and tell me what you would have done, because I'm genuinely curious. I've asked a few people, and the answers are always more split than you'd expect. And if you haven't already shared this one, please do. Send it to someone who thinks they don't scare easily, because the best horror isn't about monsters. It's about the moment you realize something is wrong, and you can't prove why, and you can't leave fast enough. I'll see you in the next one. Don't drive anywhere strange tonight.